Seems as though a lot of these things have been starting with, well, coffee. Why not? So, you want to get into vlogging, you've been looking at it online on YouTube quite a bit, and you're just not sure where to start. Well, I'm going to share with you probably the two most important things you want to look at with a vlog setup. We're going to talk about what's actually important, what's not important. Let's run the intro. I'll give you a little explanation. We're going to have some fun today, okay? Let's see how this works. Alright, so if you haven't come across my channel yet and this is your first time, my name is Dan. The main thing I focus on is fitness, nutrition, mindset, health, coaching. That's what I do as a job, but I'm also getting into this video blogging thing. I've been doing it for going on 2 years in March, and I really enjoy it in terms of a way to document what I'm doing along the way. But I found as a quiet, introverted person, it's a great way for me to share my perspective to everyone online and actually have some questions come to me instead of me having to go and engage everyone all the time. So it's helped. Oh yeah, and the YouTube thing. Like this video if you haven't yet, and if this is the first time you're coming across my channel, I encourage you down there, hit that subscribe button. You won't regret it. Or if you regret it, I'm sorry, you can unsubscribe at some point in the future when I create something that you're just not liking. How about that? So when you're getting into video blog setup, best recommendation is use your phone. Use anything that's around you and it's readily available. The biggest thing that I want to tell you is versatility is important, because you want to have something that's always around you. The best camera is only so good if you know how to use it, you know how it works, you know all the functions that work properly, but also, are you actually carrying it around with you? Or are you stuffing it in your backpack with the intention to carry it around with you? Or you buy all this nice equipment and you leave it in the living room when you go out and you go explore. Those things are important. So whatever you have on you and you're going to carry with you and use is probably the best video blog setup going forward. So when I upgraded to my most recent camera, I was looking for a full frame camera that I could use for everything. In fact, I'm about to head to a photo shoot right now, and I'm gonna actually take this setup exactly how it is with me, so I'm good to go. Tripod, lens, camera, we're good. So versatility is extremely important in a video blog setup. That's why for the first bunch of video blogs I did, I actually used, well, not this phone, it's a few models old, but I actually used my phone because I always had it with me. There's a time-lapse feature on it, you can slow-mo stuff, you can even get a nice little gorilla pod for it and set it up properly on like a tripod. So it's a great way to get started and you learn how to tell and share your story. There are some other things you want to look at, and based on your perspective or your point of view that you're sharing, you may want to get into something a little bit more cinematic that is a little bit more of a professional video shoot setup. So you may want to go into like a crop sensor, a point and shoot, or get something that's a full frame camera that really blurs out that background and makes a really, really nice experience for the viewer to watch. That said, it's super important to know how to use the manual settings on your camera and to know how to set it up properly. That's one of the things that I think I struggled with for a couple years, was finding that, well, having that nice camera gear, but just making sure you're setting up everything in the right process so it actually works how you're envisioning it up here. Okay, so I'm gonna break down some of the options for you that I've used in the past. I'm gonna give you a couple pros and cons, why they're good, maybe not so good, and maybe it'll help you with your decision making to find the right video blog setup for you going forward. The phone, always the phone. It's probably one of the best things to have and to start video blogging on because you always have it. Nowadays, like most cell phone cameras, will have even 4K video. It will have 60 frames per second. It may even have some amazing slow-mo features. So this is a great way to start. And the pro is it's always with you. It's super compact and super easy just to flip it on over into video or capture photos and share your experience. I think the con side of it is probably getting better audio if you're outside and it's windy. You may not have an ideal or optimal audio. As well, like depth perception, it doesn't really do well with that. Some low light options. Most camera phones don't do well in low light, so finding a good option that works for you. I mean, this is a great starter option, but as you build, as you improve, as you're looking for a little bit more of a dynamic experience, you may outgrow that camera phone pretty quick. That said, I always have it with me and it's super versatile, so if I forget my camera setup, I've got this here and ready, and it'll do in a pinch. You've outgrown the smartphone and you're looking for something just a little bit easier that you can always carry, toss in your pocket and have it to go. A point and shoot like this, pocket, and go. The reason why I like this point and shoot personally is it's got this nice flip out screen. It allows me with the manual settings to actually change it to a faster aperture, so it does a 1.8 aperture, so the whole background is pretty blurry and gives you a better depth of field. It's a great point and shoot camera. They do get a little bit expensive. I think maybe one of the con side of this is there's no audio mic to this one. The battery's a little bit small, so it doesn't last as long if you're running around all day. And as good as a point and shoot is, it's just not as quality as something like a mirrorless camera or a crop sensor or a full frame camera. So they do have their limitations, but super slick, and it really helps you learn the order of operations. Sorry, that was a fuzz. The order of operations in terms of setting up your picture, setting up your composition, and making sure you've got the right settings to work for the actual video display. So the point and shoot's working, but you need something that's just a little bit better. The next option would be a mirrorless camera. The reason why mirrorless cameras are great is they're incredibly compact. Like, I mean, this is actually about the size, minus the lens, this is about the size of a point and shoot. Most mirrorless cameras nowadays as well have that nice flip out screen so you can view yourself, you can point at things. Again, it gives you a really, really nice perspective while you're video blogging. The great thing about mirrorless cameras is you can pop off the lens, you can add different lenses, maybe if you want to give yourself a little bit more of, again, that blurred out background, or maybe you want a zoom lens to capture more while you're traveling. These are great. Again, they're super compact, so if you are someone who travels quite a bit, it gives you pretty close to a crop sensor in terms of its quality, but just not quite as dynamic or as many options as a crop sensor or a full frame camera. But really, really good option as a compact video blog setup. One of the downsides to it is most don't have an audio mic as well, but based on what you're shooting, based on what you're looking for, you can probably find the right options between all the brands and all the features to fit your video blog setup. And now we've upgraded to the crop sensor camera. Many brands out there, many of them have the options that you're looking for. The flip out screen, again, for me is a game changer, and you want something with really good autofocus, because if you're having the camera here and you're moving quite a bit, or you're changing perspectives, or you're moving within and out of frame, you want that autofocus to nail in on those points to make sure you've got a nice crispy shot while you're sharing your story. As a side note, I shoot Canon. There's a lot of different brands that work for a lot of people. I just like it because, well, it's all I've ever used, and I feel really comfortable with it. It feels kind of dummy proof for me, and I tend to beat up my gear, and it holds up to it quite a bit. So I want to talk about this lens in particular. This is the Canon 10 to 18 millimeter super wide angle lens. It's a f4.5, so not a super blurry background. It's incredibly inexpensive, and if you're looking for a nice wide dynamic view, a lens that does nearly everything, this 10 to 18 is phenomenal, and the price point you really can't beat. So some pros to the crop sensor frame. Again, you can add a bunch of lenses to have a really good dynamic perspective to it. Again, you've got a camera setup that's ready to go with you, so whether you're doing photos, whether you're doing video, whether you're doing some slow-mo options, whether you're doing whatever it is, it's probably going to hold up to what you put it through, and it's probably going to be that quality that you're looking for in terms of sharing your perspective in a video blog. The one con to most Canons is the fact that they don't shoot 4K. I mean, my cell phone does shoot 4K. Is it really needed? Probably not, but it's nice to be able to zoom in, add different perspectives, much like if I'm doing this. I can make it look like I'm shooting from a couple different angles, so it adds that professional level quality that you kind of want to start getting into. I just wish this had 4K, but it's not a make or break for me, in my personal opinion. But eventually Canon really should look into getting 4K on their cropped and full frame cameras, besides just the top of the line 1DX. But hey, it is what it is, and I'm doing fine without that. And the final one on the list is the full frame camera, and that's currently what I'm shooting on right now. It's actually what I'm going to take to that photo shoot, and I'll show you guys some examples of how versatile it is. This is my favorite lens that comes with it. Pros, obviously, to a full frame camera is you're as close as you can to a professional setup that you can take with you, and again, it gets a big wide frame of view or field of view, so you can really capture a lot more than you could with a point and shoot, a crop sensor, a mirrorless camera, everything. So in terms of getting the full frame and the full perspective of everything, a full frame camera is just where it's at. So one of the downsides about a full frame camera is because it's as close to a professional setup as possible, the lenses or the glass tends to get pretty expensive. In terms of the Canon one, like this is one of my favorite lenses, and this is Canadian, like 150, 160 bucks. US, it's like $120. This Nifty 50 is one of my favorite lenses. It's a 1.8 aperture, so the background is super blurry. It adds that cinematic depth of field that we really like. The other downside, obviously, to a full frame camera is just it's a bigger setup. The lenses, because of the glass, there's that much more in there. They're a lot bigger, they're heavier, so based on the setup that you need for your video blogs, pick and choose the option that works best for you. And you may want to have one or two options that are coming around with you at all times, so you're able to share that story how you want. Okay, I hope that actually helped you guys, and if you have any questions, toss it in the comments below. Happy to answer them going forward, and if not, DM me anytime on social media, and I'll be sure to get back to you. And I didn't talk about what's actually the most important part about it. So I did talk about the gear and finding the right gear as a really big important part, as a versatility aspect, but I didn't touch on what the most important part about video blogging is, and that's creating and crafting a really good story that you can share online. And honestly, after nearly 2 years of video blogging, that's something I'm still working on and I'm still struggling with each upload. Alright, so we got about 15 minutes to get this shoot. Let's go with that, and I'll finish off this upload in a moment. And things got busy there today, but I hope that gave you guys a good understanding of what's important when you're looking for a camera, especially for video blogging, and what's kind of the pros and cons overall about what kind of comes with each setup and each platform that you're using to obviously tell that story. So if you do have any questions, like always, toss them below. I'm happy to answer them. Let's sign off this upload like we sign off every other one. It's optimism, positivity, and that's really all we need to do. Can't have enough of that. For a little bit more, stay tuned. I did a little bit of B-roll footage and some photos with the full frame camera at Athletic Evolution, so that'll be on the next upload, so check that out if you haven't yet. I think vlog 15,